So what this is a resurrected presentation I gave probably 20 times about 4 years ago. But now that we have PPTQs, RCQs coming back, I figured this was going to be the best time to bring this back. It is a presentation on a guide coming from I am a new level 1. I have started, judging my local Friday Night Magic events all the way to I am now applying and getting accepted for my first large event. It is a guide to do that. Everybody's judge journey is a little bit different. I'm not going to say that everything on this list is going to work for every individual person. So where do we start? We start by practicing the infraction procedure guide. This is going to be the main difference between your regular rules enforcement level events and then your competitive events. Instead of using your jar, you're going to be using your infraction procedure guide. Now, it is an incredibly dense document that trying to read it straight up to down, all 20 some pages of it, it gives me a headache, and I'm sure it gives a lot of other people a headache. My general best advice, start with your gameplay errors. You're looking at extra cards, hidden card error, mulligan procedure error, game rule violations, failure to main game states. Really learn those inside and out. Feel free to ask questions to us. Reach out to a local level 2. If you ever have questions about it, we're more than happy to help. Back in the day, we used to have a running joke within the judge program of judging as a cult of self-improvement. Now, the word cult has its issues, but it's still true to this day that a lot of judges, we're all here to help each other out. Now, one thing that you can do to practice that, because not every judge is going to get the opportunity to judge RCQs immediately. And before I get onto that, Isaac makes a really good point in the chat, is that the general philosophy section is also a really good place to start. And it does provide the groundwork for understanding the infraction procedure guide as a whole. But going into putting this into practice, take your calls at FNM. Think about the situation. Obviously, give the jar ruling. Fix it or get them out of the event. But you can think about in the back of your mind, okay, what if this situation had happened in at a competitive REL event? What would I have done differently in that situation? You have a player that draws an extra card at FNM. You're going to have that player, shuffle that card back into the library. What would you have done? How would you have applied the mulligan procedure error? And again, like we talked about earlier, feel free to ask for help. If you have an interesting situation at FNM and you're like, hey, this is how I got it resolved at FNM, I have no idea how I would have gotten that resolved if it were competitive. We love talking about that. So the next step that you're going to want to do for yourself is build yourself a reputation within the community. And that involves doing things like this, going to conferences. Chris is a great example here of somebody who has been reaching out. He's been lucky enough to, go to Gen Con, meet a bunch of cool folks. He's now working on conferences, but even just the act of attending conferences like this one, getting the chance to interact with other judges, it doesn't have to be serious. As we start to get, air quotes, back to normal, is, getting involved with local get-togethers with your other judges in the area. I know when I was, making that transition from level 1 to level 2, I happened to live in Chicago, which had at the time at least a dozen level 2s. So that made things really easy to just, go hang out with people. Later on in this conference, we've got Judge Jeopardy. That's a great, it doesn't have to be work, even on your Facebook group, just if you have a Facebook and you just want to be like, hey, Do a bunch of judges just want to go play some Commander some night, right? Learn the people around you, find mentors, people that are willing to help you out on a more personal basis. All right, so the next step here is to write your cover letters with applying to, I'm going to start with regional championship qualifiers. Not that those are back on the table. That's going to be your introductory level. And then once you get some of those under your belt, you can start applying to larger events like, I know in the Midwest, we've got the Nerd Rage Gaming Series. You got Star City games over on the East Coast. I don't know if Channel Fireball is planning on doing something for you guys over the West Coast. So the way that I build cover letters, again, this is something that every judge is going to do a little bit differently, is I do them in 5 sentences for each. So the first thing is, who are you? What's your name? Where are you from? Even what store you work for, if you do work for a store. What are you bringing to this event? What skills do you have? What have you practiced? What other events do you have under your belt that might be an asset to a tournament organizer? What are you looking to get out of this event? One of my good friends, Michael Aerosmith, he loves to say that his favorite word to see on a cover letter is opportunity. And I think that is also a great word to put on a cover letter. It's like, hey, I'd like the opportunity to do this. If you have any necessary accommodations to bring. Now, I want to be very clear. These are things that are going to make or break a cover letter. So, it is one thing to say that, hey, I can only work Friday and Saturday. I have work on Sunday. That is a lot different than saying, I want to be the team lead for end of round. And if you do not staff me for the team lead of end of round, I do not want to be at this event, because that is a request that you can make that is very easy for any sort of tournament organizer to say, hey, guess what? You're not going to be at that event. That's a lot easier. And then finally, if you have references or mentors in the community, you can always, list them as somebody that, like, hey, I'm a newer level 1. You may not have heard of me, but I've been working a lot with Ben Lurie, with Avi Greenberg, with Steven Zwanger, with Chris Kleistenbauer. Sorry, Chris, if I butchered your last name. And then my other general rule of thumb is to keep it at around 100 words. Now, if you do those 5 steps in 5 sentences, I have generally found that keeps it to 100 words, give or take. As a side note, please do all the extra things that a cover letter asks you to do. I know for a while with Star City Games, they were doing some Google Doc in addition to their Judge apps, is what we called Judge Academy at the time application. So I'm just going to provide some examples of cover letters. So, hello, my name is Armorcraft Judge. I've been working through the competitive REL material in Judge Academy, and I'm having some difficulty differentiating between hidden card error and looking at extra cards. I'm hoping that the RCQ at Rafine's Tower would be a good opportunity for me to learn that distinction from judges with more experience than me. For reference, please contact Karn, who tested me for level 1. Again, we got your name, who you are. What are you bringing to this event? You're a level 1 that has been working their way through the competitive rules enforcement level material. What are you looking to get? What is Armorcraft Judge looking to get out of this event? He's having some trouble with hidden card error and looking at extra cards, which I do not believe I'm the only level 2 here that will say that is something that we've all struggled with at one point or another. when we were learning that new ruling. And then we've got a reference there because this guy isn't well known, but he's got a level 2 that that helped test him for level 1. Which brings me to one quick point that I forgot earlier. Please ask before you're going to put somebody down as a reference. I don't think I have to go into too much details why, but if a TO goes, hey, Ben Lurie is, this random person a good fit for my event, and I go, I don't know who that person is, does not look good. Gregory goes, please always ask your references first for anything, not just cover letters. That is true. And James, just responding to the chat. Yeah, probably testing for L1 is probably outdated. Like I said, this presentation is about 4 years old. All right, so cover letter 2 and this is from somebody who's got a little more experience under their belt trying to apply for a large event. Hello, my name is Judges Familiar. I'm a level 2 judge from the Azoria Senate. I've been the head judge of several smaller competitive REL events in recent months at Hallowed Fountain Games with upwards of 80 players. I would enjoy bringing the knowledge I've built to your event and mentoring newer judges so they don't feel so overwhelmed at the Dragon's Maze games. I would need to be staffed together with Iceperia as we need to travel together. Again, I stole this from a friend of mine who, him and his partner, travel to events together because they live together and that's the way that they make it financially work for them. Again, this is one of those cost-benefit analysis of this is a reasonable accommodation to ask for, but also understand that you're opening up the risk for any sort of tournament organizer to say, okay, I really want one of you guys. I don't have the space for the second one. I'm going to have to turn down that application. It's just that's the realities of applying for events, is that you have to weigh that cost benefit analysis there. And then I'm going to get into cover letter 3, which is what I put on a cover letter for SCG regionals about 4 years ago. Because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys, I haven't been applying for events lately. I've been pretty busy. But hi, my name is Benjamin Lurie. I'm the team lead for Central Region's Education and Conferences Leadership Team. In my judging career, I am looking for experiences that can help me flesh out my level 3 self-review, particularly in teamwork, diplomacy, and maturity, as I've had a lot of experience head judging smaller events and floor judging larger events, but have very little experiences serving as team lead. I would love for you to consider me for a team lead position at SCG Regionals in the fall. For reference, please contact John Temple or Stephen Briggs, who at the time of writing this letter, Stephen Briggs was the regional coordinator for the Central Region, and John Temple was the regional coordinator for the Great Lakes, which were the 2 regions I was most heavily involved in. And both of them I had asked ahead of time, can I put you guys down? And I've worked with both of them a lot at that point. So when you apply to an event, there's 2 things that can happen. You can either get declined or you're going to get accepted. So when you get declined, first thing to remind yourself is everybody gets declined from time to time. And yes, I do mean everyone. One of the jokes I used to make, and I'm going to make again, is that Eric Levine got turned down for a Grand Prix. If you guys don't know who Eric Levine is, he is a former level 4 when that used to be a thing. Grand Prix head judge. Awesome guy. But yeah, he got declined for a Grand Prix. They were like, hey, we have too many slots of that sort of person. And Eric didn't make the cut, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that Eric's not a good judge. He's a fantastic judge. Just means that this wasn't the right event for him. Reminder, it is not a personal slight against you. Please do not walk away from this assuming that when you get declined for an event, that it means that the tournament organizer doesn't like you, that they think you're a cruddy judge, that, whatever the case may be. If you feel comfortable, and I want to say if, you can contact the judge manager and see what could have been better about your application. Again, be prepared for bad news with this. I think very few people in the judge community as a whole are the type of people that are going to tell you, oh, I don't like you, so I didn't staff you. Not going to happen. Now, they may say things like, hey, it came down to you and a couple of our judges, and those judges had more experience than you did. It may be that, it could be any number of things. It just could be, hey, I flipped a coin even. Or, I had an event, an SCG a while ago that I got declined for. And, I ended up showing up as a player anyway. And I talked to the judge manager at the time. He's like, look, we've put you on staff for a lot of events lately. I was like, and he was like, I thought you could use a break. Like, fair enough. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's okay. I do not want to make this seem like it's a necessary step. It's an optional one. And then their next step is obviously to move on, apply for the next event. So now that you've been accepted, what do you do now? So first thing that you do is you give yourself a pat on the back. Feel free to celebrate, but also be courteous of others. Again, I'm going to steal a story from Michael Aerosmith. One time he was driving back from an event with 3 other judges. Staff solicitations for a Grand Prix came out, and he was the only one that got accepted in the car. And, it was one of those things that he kind of had to hold it in, be like, oh, yeah, I got on. And then, the minute they stopped at a gas station, he got out, got away from everybody else and went, woo, pumped the fist away from everybody else as to not, be completely, in their face with other people that have applied. Stephen brings up a good point here as far as being declined. Please do not put your hopes all into one basket when it comes to events. Isaac, again, brings up a good point that don't shove it in people's faces, but if you've got friends of yours in the program that are going to be nasty to you every time that you make it onto an event and they didn't, maybe reconsider the friendship a little bit. And Kyle, I am going to get into that. I really should have start finalizing travel arrangements here more than making travel arrangements. More than anything, because this is a big part of when you start moving into not so local events, is traveling and planning that out becomes a larger part of your judge journey. So the first thing that you need to figure out is how you're physically going to get yourself to and from that event. Depending on if you own a car or if you have, you can drive to an event, you can fly, you can take a megabus. Philippe brings up a point. Do not last minute your travel plans go, I'll get there somehow. Word of advice from myself, players are not reliable. I want to make that very clear. Do not make plans with players. Players can cancel at the last minute. Players can feel like players can just, hey, I have to work today. Sorry. And not saying that judges can't do that either, but because judges are getting paid to go to events, not paying to go events. it just understand that it's riskier, much riskier to go with players unless you really know those players. Then as far as where to stay for the night, with the obvious exceptions of, hey, I have family in the area that I can stay with or something along those lines. You can either book a hotel or jump into a judge hotel. Now, my general recommendation for this is, if possible, I would recommend that if you're going to jump in a hotel, that you at least know one person in that hotel. That you've either judged an event with that person, you know them, outside of that event, you've worked with them before, something. I love to say that all judges are good people, but I've heard enough horror stories of people's things going missing, specifically magic cards. The other thing, and again, this comes down to Stephen Briggs would kill me if I don't bring this up. Please document all of your expenses that you're making. They are all tax deductible because they are, things that you make as part of earning an income. Isaac brings up a good point. Start getting comfortable with the idea that you're going to share beds with your friends. And then again, budget. We were talking about this before this presentation started. Whether or not you're going to make money at an event can have an impact on whether or not you apply. Especially with flights being what they are and compensation being what it is. I'm not trying to call out any tournament organizers or anything here. It's just that flights, it's really more that flights have gone up. Flying to events has been harder than it's been in the past. All right, so let's make a list of things to bring with you. You're going to want to bring clothes with you. I put Judge Blacks on here, but I guess they're Judge Grays now, or Judge whatever color at the moment. Black pants. You want a belt. You want Zanudo clothes are not optional. You don't want to bring shoes. I say comfortable before black. There used to be a thing in the judge program where it was like everybody needed to wear black shoes. Please, tennis shoes are great. This is just personal touch. Extra socks. They are great. If you've never done it before, being on your feet for 10 hours straight is exhausting. Getting to change your socks halfway through the day is wonderful. It is like one of the best feelings that you could possibly do for your feet. Then you're going to want to bring pens with you. Various colors. I at least bring one black or blue and then one red pen. A notebook is super important, especially now that we have our new event software where, depending on the TO, we may not even have match slips anymore. And being able to write down table 36, hidden card error, Nikki drew an extra card on her turn. Hey, sorry, Nikki, I'm just calling you out because I can. You're the first name I saw on screen. And then for larger events, I do like to bring a Sharpie. I just think it's helpful because you're just going to run into situations where you're going to want to put time of round on a piece of paper, things of that nature. Obviously, bring your toiletries with you. I know that's kind of straightforward, but it's something that people forget. And, trying to find a CVS at, 9 o'clock at night after your shift that's still open is not a fun experience. I've been there, done that. Garrison, that's a good thing to add. Power banks for your cellular device if your battery is old. I generally recommend bringing some sort of carrying device, whether that be a backpack or a purse or whatever that is, something that you can carry your things in with you as you're traveling. And then if you want to bring magic cards with you, you can. Again, this, brings me to that point about, not 100% of people are trustworthy. I would limit the number of magic cards you're going to bring to, if you and a good friend are going to hang out in the hotel and play a game of EDH, bring an EDH deck. Or if you know that an artist is going to be there and you want some cards signed, cool. Bring those cards with you. I would not bring your entire Magic collection. I know some judges that love to bring their trade binders and trade on their off days. That's not for me. But do what you like. And then in the days leading up to event, you're going to want to prepare yourself for the day. So review your rules of research resources, your infraction procedure guide, your MTR, your comprehensive rules. As we start getting competitive REL events back, I do expect that updates to the infraction procedure guide are going to come back. It used to be basically every set we would get an update to the infraction procedure guide. We obviously haven't had events, and it's a loop. It's, policy is out. Judges give feedback to Toby Elliott about it, and then Toby makes changes to the infraction procedure guide. And now as we start to have events and Toby's going to get feedback from judges, we're going to start to see updates to the infraction procedure guide. So please keep that in mind. Please remember to get plenty of sleep, not just at the event. Do it beforehand. Posted the link in the chat. That's a great place to start. And then when you get there, I would introduce yourself to your team lead. Find your team lead if you can. Say, hey, I'm Ben. I'm going to be judging with you today. It's a good way to put a good step forward, because a lot of tournament organizers, when they're looking at, is this somebody that we want to staff it again in the future? The person they're going to look to is your team lead, is the person that interacted with you most throughout the day. While you're at the event, a couple of checklist items. Drink lots of water, practicing what I preach. Take your breaks. Do not be hero judge. I think I hope I'm not speaking for myself here by myself when I say that, my first large event, which happened to be a Star City, Matt Carr, wonderful human being, was my team lead. He's like, hey, Ben, go take a break. And I'm like, I don't need to. And Matt really kicked that into me. No, go take a break. Do not feel like you have to be a hero judge that does not take a break. You are on your feet for 10 hours, and you may not feel it that day, but you will feel it that night. And then the other thing is ask for feedback from the judges around you. Ask for feedback from your team lead. Gregory, that's a good point. Be good. Be kind to tomorrow you. Tomorrow you will not appreciate you being on your feet for 11 hours and not taking a break. Ask questions and learn. One of the awesome things about judging larger events is that if you ever need a second opinion, it's there. I love being able to be like, hey, everyone, that's a really good question. I think I have an answer in mind. I'm going to confirm with another judge just to make sure I'm on the right page. I'll be right back with you. Go over to Dave Eldon. Hey, Dave, here's the situation. I have no idea what's going on. Can you help? lovely trip trick. And again, keep your receipts. Gonna keep harping on it. Tax deductible. A lot of this stuff is take lots of notes, please. Any interaction that you have with another judge is something that I take a note on. Because these notes, honest to God, they become reviews later of other judges. And then, accomplish the things that your team lead set out to you within, reason. I don't want you guys thinking that, it's not okay to tell your team lead like, hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. This is enough where I'm like, hey, I need somebody to help me out with this. Matt brings up a good point. If you need to get off your feet, especially if you're on a 3-day event, please feel free to sit down at a table and watch the magic. Like, that's what you're there for. No player is going to look at you weird because you're watching some magic. All right. And then after the event, decompress, whatever that means for you. For some people, that means going to the hotel room and crashing the heck out. Means losing consciousness about as soon as possible. For others, like myself, I love judge dinners. You will never fail to see me going to hang out with friends after days of work and getting food at the local joint. Whatever place there is. If it's Columbus, it's North Market. If it's, I'm a bit of a travel foodie when it comes to this stuff. If you have enough notes about one person, or 2 or 5, if you're crazy, I would write a review, but also let somebody know if you're going to write a review of them. Being a review bomb sucks. I don't want to say sucks. It's a lot to have somebody review you when you weren't expecting it. So if you are going to review somebody, please let them know that you're going to review them, and then B, let them know what's going to be in that review. Because just having that notification show up on your Judge Academy being like, hey, somebody wrote you a review. For a lot of people, myself included, it gives them a sense of anxiety. I know I talked to now the rules manager, Jess Dunks, about it because I wrote him a review once, and he's like, I thanks for talking down for me. I'm like, yeah, I hope it helps release some of the anxiety. He's like, it won't. He was very honest with me. He's like, I always get anxiety about writing reviews. Isaac, I think you are the exception as somebody who likes surprise reviews. Also, it brings me to a point about reviewing Just Dunks. Please do not feel like your level matters when writing reviews. We can all use feedback. Hey, Chris, that's a good question from Garrison. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, do you know if reviews are still a requirement for level 2? Zachary, yes. That's a good question. Though reviews should be a mix of good and bad. Talk about the things that Judge did well. Talk about the things that Judge did that could have been better. So the way that I separate my reviews, and this is going to bring me into, like, somebody stop me if I go too far into this tangent. But Zach did bring up a point, is that I separate my views into what I call pluses and deltas, which are, hey, here are some things that you do well, and here are some things that you could improve on. And then make sure that you have all your belongings before you leave. I am so guilty of this. 100%. I cannot tell you the number of things I have left behind at events, especially after a staff party. I have lost a hoodie. I've lost a judge shirt. I am incredibly guilty of this. So I'm hoping that I can be a better example for all of you to just double, triple check. I have everything that I brought with me here. And then I would take a couple of days after the event and then look back at your notes. Maybe you took some notes about a judge that you're like, hey, I didn't think I had enough here from review, but I do. Or maybe you still have a couple of calls that you're like, hey, I forgot to discuss this, but I still don't know if what I did here was the correct thing to do. Reflect on your difficult calls. Again, ask questions of the people around you. And then listen to feedback. If somebody wrote your review, please take that seriously. Unless it's, one of those garbage reviews of you were terrible. I don't want you at my event again. Those don't happen. Hopefully those never happen. But that is really it. If you guys have any questions, the Discord chat open. I'm